Welcome to the third session, and sorry for the little delay. We had a quite interesting discussion on the second session with Hannes about chips and implants. But now looking forward to Gilles' presentation. So really looking forward, and yes, stage is yours, Gilles. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. So thanks everybody on the line. I hope you hear me well. So I'm Gilles Lunzenfichter. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at MediSanté. I joined this company based in Switzerland about 1 year ago, because when I met the CEO and he explained me the vision he had about intelligent connected care, I thought it was really worth joining him on this journey. And I will give you a little insight on what we mean with intelligent connected care. So first of all, welcome to a new world of intelligent connected care. This is my preferred mountain in Switzerland. It's the Mountain of the Angels. And you can see that the cable car here is really connected. You know, it's pretty solid. It's always on. You can even ski during summertime on the ice flyer. So more seriously, the vision we have at MediSanté is we want to help nations to reduce the cost of supporting chronic conditions. So why is this important? Because today chronic conditions represent about 80% of the healthcare cost of a nation, of most nations, between 70 and 80%. And the healthcare budget represents 10 to 12% in many European countries of the GDP. So we talk about a significant chunk of money for every nation. And we believe that with the digital transformation of healthcare that is ahead of us, or even that has started, there are huge savings for grab for healthcare budget in every country. And equally, this allows people to stay longer at home instead of being transferred, especially at the end of life, of course, to a hospital setting. So I think it's always good to position ourselves on a journey, because we believe that in this healthcare transformation, when it comes to Internet of Things and devices that are connected, there are different type of generation. There are 3 generations. The first generation is a generation which is still probably 80% of the reality today. It's that devices are not connected, so kind of as if the Internet of Things didn't exist. Then the last 5 years, we have experienced an era which I call the connected devices era. It's clearly consumer driven, and I will quickly come to the attributes of this generation. But we believe that in the current generation, that show the way to what you can do with the Internet of Things in the healthcare area, in fact, there are limitations. And we believe we can overcome those limitations by entering the next phase, which is about connected care. And again, I will give the attributes of what we mean by connected care, but already a hint, when you talk about connected devices, the device in itself is in the middle of the stage. Why? When you talk about connected care, in fact, it's a care process driven by a caregiver, a doctor, that is at the heart of this new generation. So let me quickly go into the attributes of the current generation, which is connected devices. And so as I said, it's consumer grade. And what you see is that it's pretty striking, even visually, that it's a siloed type of architecture. For every condition, be it diabetes, hypertension, overweight, cardiovascular, etc., the little icon at the bottom is a patient in red who has a medical device. And what he needs to do, he needs to download a mobile app on his smartphone. He needs to connect his medical device to his smartphone via Bluetooth. Then he needs to select a Wi-Fi. Then he accepts all the terms of use, and he sends his data to a global cloud where, oh surprise, he looks at his own data in a global cloud. So the key person that is missing here is the caregiver. At best, the caregiver sees this data when the patient visits him at his practice and shows him a mobile app here, a mobile app there. And usually the caregivers do not know how to react to these wells of interesting information, but they are not part of the process. They are watching, but they are not driving the process. And additionally, a second major issue here is that often chronic patients are elderly people, and they find this setup of downloading a mobile app, connecting via Bluetooth to a smartphone, still way too clunky for them. They would prefer something simpler. And this is exactly what we try to address in the new generation that we are kickstarting, basically connected care, which is clearly medical grade Internet of Things. So the first thing is that now you see a blue icon appearing at the top of this new icon. And the blue icon, it's the doctor. The whole process, which leverages the technologies of Internet of Things, is really in the driver's seat of the process. So the caregiver is in the driver's seat. We have built a SaaS platform in which all the vital signs across multiple conditions are coming from those devices you see at the bottom, where the patient is still at home, uses a medical device. But the huge difference here, compared with what I described before, is we have massively simplified the data capture process for the patient and the caregiver. In fact, we have worked with the manufacturers of such medical devices and have embedded a global IoT SIM card. As a result, the patient, especially when it's an elderly person, doesn't have to connect to anything else. The device he has in the hands is autonomous. If you take hypertension, he would typically put its cuff, push one button, and then he sees that the SIM card is blinking. And once it has found the next cellular antenna, the data is transmitted, and 10 seconds later, everywhere in the world, the caregiver can see his data. And the other point that is really important is that the data is not hosted in a global cloud, because here we talk about medical grade IoT, and there are heavy regulations that are industry bound, that are country bound. So in fact, the architecture of this generation is characterized by the fact that the data are always hosted in. So we believe that in the medical grade IoT generation, this connected care generation, the caregiver is in the driving seat, the data are hosted in country, and the user experience, in order to scale for the patient, needs to be simple, not having two devices, just one that is autonomous and sends with a SIM card embedded. So in a nutshell, if I had to summarize the mission we set ourselves to be the leader in this new generation of connected care, is that we want to put the Internet of Things to work for caregivers. So clearly our target is to serve the needs of the caregivers. And how do we do this? Well, very simply, by seamlessly connecting them to patient-generated health data of patients at home using those 3G-enabled connected devices. So this is really the mission we have set ourselves. So if I give you a little bit a flavor of what it looks like, an image of an architecture, let's say. In fact, the caregiver will see all his patients on usually a big screen, where he sees all the patients and he sees all the vital signs that are coming in, not only one. So it's not a siloed view of a patient on a mobile app. It's really a unified view of a given patient across multiple conditions. Additionally, the devices that you see at the bottom, so we cover the main conditions, so blood pressure, blood glucose, body composition, and even an electrocardiogram. What is important is the data transmission between those devices and the caregiver on his screen. And here we have made the choice of partnering with Vodafone. Vodafone is really the key player in this area we call M2M, managed services. There has been a magic quadrant from Gartner, for those of you who follow these IT analysts. And basically, Vodafone displayed the best vision in that area and also the best ability to implement. So they are clearly a leader in this area of machine-to-machine managed services. We have put them at the heart of our connected care solution. And we have also worked a lot with Gemalto in order to encrypt the data end-to-end from device to the platform. So just to recap, the connected care devices, I already said it. You see one device that is both a blood glucose monitor and a blood pressure monitoring system. Then you have the body composition. We also have a blood glucose monitoring system, which is more for diabetic patients type 1, who also need to add markers like they have just had lunch, or to add information on the touch screen. It's an Android-based smartphone, but they do not use it to call. They just use it to monitor their blood glucose, and the ECG event recorder. Okay, so as I said, the platform, so Elliot is the name of the platform for the caregiver. It means e-health leading IoT platform. And that's really the tool by which the caregiver, for the first time, really is given the opportunity to scale his expertise beyond the four walls of his practice. Because today, in most cases, without such technologies, with the Internet of Things and such a combination of technologies, in fact, the caregiver can only exercise his art, medicine, in a face-to-face setup in person, while here he can really intervene remotely. He gets the data seamlessly, almost in real time, from hundreds or potentially thousands of patients. So I think, why do we believe that this new generation will be successful? Because all the stakeholders who are part of this system have a clear benefit. So first of all, the health authority, the Minister of Health, the different agencies and the payers who implement the strategy of the Ministry of Health, they will experience cost savings. We believe that there are huge cost savings that are for grab. Then the caregivers, they are given data that they never had at their fingertip before, that should give them actionable insights to intervene and timely intervene when the data go wrong, make the right medical decision in order to achieve better outcomes and avoid often the catastrophes of patients that have bad data, but the caregiver doesn't have the visibility on this data. And as a result, often these patients end up at emergency services of hospitals or clinics. And normally this system is really a way to prevent those emergency visits. And of course, the patients, they just want to do one thing, is stay at home. and stay in the comfort of their home, but with the peace of mind that somebody is watching, is monitoring their data remotely, and that this person is a caregiver who has the expertise to intervene if something goes wrong. So this is a pretty important difference compared with the previous generation, because in the consumer-driven medical device generation, in fact, it's very much about prevention, and which is very good. It generated a lot of awareness, but nobody can provide evidence, that there were real cost savings for the national healthcare budget. And the key thing that was really missing is that the caregivers could access to those data coming from the devices, because they were going through a global cloud. So just to conclude and recap, what we believe it takes to put the Internet of Things for caregiver. In fact, it requires a combination of things that we have put together. And so first of all, we believe that, even if the smartphone is mainstream, in fact, medical devices deserve more than being just an accessory of a smartphone. And when people are really ill, in fact, they have the chance to have autonomous devices that are equipped directly with 3G connectivity without any other clunky setup, that sometimes they struggle with. The second point is that having several mobile apps, we wanted to provide a connected care platform, so hospital grade, enterprise grade, that provides a unified view across multiple conditions. And the third point is that the data need to be hosted in country. So this is really what we believe will make it possible to put the Internet of Things to work for caregivers. And I think with that, I just say welcome. This new world has started. And I think there are questions in the chat, so I'm happy just to take some of the questions to be sure there is enough interactivity.
Yes, thank you very much, Gilles. Very interesting, and it was a very good decision by myself having you with us, because I think that's a quite interesting concept you are working on, or a product even. And yes, as you said, happy to get to go back to the comments and questions. Julian wanted to know, are you implementing as well third-party devices? Meaning, I think you make your own devices, or they are special devices, because of the setup.
Yes.
You need
it's a good question. Thank you for asking, Julian. So what we did. Can you hear me? Because I have an echo.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so we wanted to end-to-end with the devices we have been manufacturing in Taiwan mainly, that it worked end-to-end between the device, the telecom gateway, and the caregiver platform. But the question, so we have demonstrated that we could work with device manufacturers to IoT enable those devices. Needless to say, we do not produce our own devices. We work with well-established manufacturers, but what we did is we helped them to IoT enable them. And in the future, of course, our plan is to implement additional third-party devices, and we're open to work with manufacturers who would like to make the data available to caregivers directly and seamlessly as we do.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say there is even a third-party dimension that is more important in the short term for us, is that as we have now started to do pilots with caregivers, in fact, the second question that comes after they see that this is just amazing and they can have access to the data so easily, in fact, they ask, could you integrate your platform into my existing electronic medical record system? And the answer is yes. So not only will we implement additional third-party devices over time based on market demand, but additionally, our first priority is to integrate our platform with the major electronic medical records.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, and I think the next question could be as well like a follow-up, like in what countries are you already operative? And how,
Okay,
yeah, and there are like two questions. And how easy to convince doctors? I think this is a quite interesting question, no?
yes, definitely. And you see at my smile that it keeps me busy, but still good humored. So first of all, we are starting pilots now. We have launched the solution at Medica, which was end of November. So we're on the Vodafone booth, on the connected care booth of Vodafone. And so now we are starting pilots in several countries. So the primary countries, some countries are in the Middle East. We see rapid adoption there, and maybe the Gulf countries will leapfrog a generation. You know, they have less mature mainstream healthcare systems, and they are very open to innovation. And my impression is that the Middle East will adopt this type of system faster than maybe more mature countries. This being said, in the mature ones like France or Germany or Austria, there are several use cases that have a real economic rationale. And so I give you two examples. The first use case is that when hospitals or clinics charge patient after, let's say, surgery or an intervention in the hospital or the clinic, in fact, there is a very critical period of 30 to 60 days after this discharge, and several groups of clinics and hospitals now want to implement telemonitoring of those discharged patients to de-risk this post-discharge period. Because the worst that can happen to hospitals and clinics today is that patients come back and that they didn't anticipate it. Because this basically makes their business non-profitable. And so they are really acting on this pretty as a high priority. The second thing we see is in the pharma industry. This type of service is very interesting to be more efficient in data collection for patients in clinical trials. And we even, for instance, in phase 4, there are, for instance, around a new pill that hasn't been approved yet. There are like 1,000 patients in the trial across the world. So once a week, they go to more intensive protocol within a hospital, but then they're at home, they take those pills daily. And the pharma industry is really interested to capture this data real time with the devices, rather than have them written down and copied by somebody else with a lot of error-prone processes. Absolutely. And we even see a new opportunity that is really beginning, is that we believe that beyond the pills that are already approved, especially if the patents have already expired, some companies might even build what we call digital therapeutic solutions, where implementing such a digital solution like the intelligent connected care service we propose can have the same impact as a pill itself to have achieved better outcome. So this is a new area, and I would say that to answer how easy is it to convince the doctor, I would say the GPs are the most difficult to convince, because if the system is not changed from top to bottom and the incentive they get paid on is then it means that an individual doctor cannot completely change the system on his own. So we believe that on the GP side, the changes will come from telemedicine players and also via healthcare insurances who will be willing to experiment for a part of the population they have under management.
Yeah, so we have a lot of more questions. So do you have time, Gilles? Because
yes,
there
it's
we have
okay.
like 4 or 5 questions. Okay, so
for me it's
tell me
fine.
about.
I mean, you're the
Yeah, for me, it's perfect. So it's very interesting, and the interaction is, I think, very valuable for all participants and for me as well. So, like, tell me more about the future devices. Same SIM band project for Samsung. Is possible to use these concepts? Perhaps you can make a short answer, yes or no. And Jose, more than happy if you want to get in contact then directly with Gilles.
yeah, probably, let's have an offline discussion on specific devices, but in principle, our ambition is to become a global medical grade IoT management platform, and we're open to any electronic medical record on one end that serves doctors already, and on any medical device on the other end that is willing to go through this process of certification so that things work as we demonstrated they can work.
Okay. Yes. And Marco, thanks for your questions like which analysis tool do you offer to doctors? Meaning, I think this is what you told me before, like to convince doctors. Yes. Do you like provide them more tools or like, yes, as a motivation to not only get data, but like more analysis about their patients?
Yeah, so we believe that in the US already we are going towards outcome-based care. So the payment will depend basically on the results, and so we believe that the Internet of Things and the approach we propose will allow to collect a lot of data, and we say that IoT are the legs, and then artificial intelligence will be the brain. But the first thing is pretty simple. Let's make a perfect connection between the devices and those patient-generated health data and the caregiver. But the next thing will really to beef up the analytical capabilities, including algorithm. But those algorithms will be self-learning only if there is a huge amount of data available. So the first step is to collect the data.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think the people they definitely like the concept or the way you're going and your presentation. Yes, they are. I think it would take too much time now, but more than happy. I think all they reach you if they like on LinkedIn to get in contact with you. So thanks again.
Sure.
I think for all the comments.
Very open, so don't hesitate. I think you have my email, and you can find me on LinkedIn, and I will respond to your questions.
Yeah, and by the way, anyway, once we're going to send then the replays of the videos, we will include as well like contact information, what you want to provide. So thanks, yes, for this great presentation. Thanks for your questions and comments. And yeah, this is already the end, for the first edition we had. So it was quite intensive.
But it's the beginning.
Yes.
It's the beginning of the healthcare transformation.
Absolutely. What I stated at the beginning, to make now the closing remarks, Helvetia is as well a digital transformation. We started as an offline community over 10 years ago, connecting people. And now we are having a mix. We're having online discussion, presentation. We have offline meetups, discussion, interactions. And yes, I'm quite happy with the results, with the presentations, with the speakers. So at the end, the format is only as valuable as our speakers. And that's thanks again, Gilles, for having you with us for this first edition. And just
welcome.